Everybody. We're going to do one of the last two sections in the U section, which is systems of equations for Algebra 1, IXL. And we're going to solve a system of equations using any method. So I assume that they're going to give us different setups, and we're going to have to decide on a good method. I have not previewed it, so it's a nice surprise. We're doing U14. And let's take a look. I gave myself a little more space this time. So this is obviously substitution. We're going to put the 5 into the top equation, and it's going to tell us what the x value is. We already know what the y value is, and in fact, you can put it in to start with. We can put the 5 in right now. Now, I still need to find the x, so I'm going to use substitution. Hopefully this makes sense. Let's write this out. I have x minus 2 times y equals -6. I like substituting inside parentheses. It's always a good idea because sometimes you're going to have to end up distributing that -2. In this particular case, we just have x. We simplify, minus 10 is equal to -6. And I have to add 10 to both sides. I'll go ahead and do that. And x is equal to 4. And y, of course, is 5. And we could test it for minus 10 is -6. So I tested it, put the 4 in, and we're done. Well, let's take a look at a more interesting one. Oh, come on. I was having a little lag earlier. Hopefully it won't happen again. Oh, same type of problem. -5x. I'm not going to explain it quite so much this time. I just substituted the y. I could put the y in right from the very beginning. Notice I already have it. Now I'm going to be careful not to touch my submit here. -5x minus 30 is equal to 20. We're going to have to add 30 to both sides. So we get -5x is equal to, 50. And then we're going to divide by -5. A common error in this case is to divide by +5, and I just want to show you why you don't do that. In this particular case, notice that if I divided by 5, I would have a -x on the left, but I really want a +x, and that's why I divide by the negative. Write equals sign correctly. And -5 divided by -5 is 1x, and it's equal to -10. A good idea is to go ahead and substitute it into your top equation and make sure that it works. Well, -5 times -10 is 50. I'm just substituting the x into the top equation right here. And 10 times -3 is -30. And when you subtract that, you do get 20. So it does work. It's always a good idea to check your answer. So we were using substitution. And again, we're going to substitute. This time we're going to substitute for x. Now be careful. This time the x is 1, isn't it? Plus 8y is equal to 20. And we're going to subtract the 4. We're going to get 16. And then we're going to divide by 8. We get y equal to 2. So y is 2. And it's a good idea to test it. 1 times 4 is 4. And 8 times 2 is 16. And of course, that is 20. I was just testing my second equation. It only takes a few seconds to test, so it's always a good idea. Now, in this particular case, I could use addition or subtraction, but it's probably more obvious to use substitution. So I'm just going to put this y right there, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. You can think of it either way. So I have -3x minus 6 is equal to 2x minus 1. A lot of people like to get the x's on the left always, but it really doesn't matter. I'm going to go ahead and do one step here and add the 3x. Make sure you write the x. It is important. I've gone through that before, so I'm not going to beat that dead horse. 5x minus 1. We are going to, interesting. Looks like we're going to end up with a, oh no, it's all right. I was thinking I was going to get a fractional answer, but I'm not. Negative 5 is equal to 5x, and of course I'm going to divide by 5 on both sides and get x equals negative 1. So I have my x. Now I'm going to use the second equation and substitute my negative 1 in. So I have 2 times x, which I'm suggesting is negative 1 here, right? Minus 1, and that is negative 2 minus 1. Write it out, is negative 3. So I think my solution is negative 1, negative 3. But it's always a good idea to go ahead and substitute it into that top equation, just to be sure. So I'm going to take a look at my top equation, and I'm going to substitute my solution in and make sure that it actually works. So y is negative 3, and x is negative 1. Now, a lot of people go, wait a minute, is that wrong? No. Negative 3 times negative 1 is 3 minus 6, which is equal to negative 3, isn't it? So I know my solution is correct. Now since these are set up in standard form, I'm going to leave them in standard form. I'm going to use addition method this time. Now, some people are going to call this subtraction method. I recommend that I'm going to go ahead and change the signs of all the terms in the bottom equation. And what I'm really doing is I'm multiplying both sides by negative 1. And when I multiply the negative 1 times the left side, it has to be distributed to both terms. My thinking on this is that you want to think of it like a row operation. You're going to multiply the negative 1 times all the terms, even though we know you're multiplying both sides by negative 1. So I'm going to leave my first equation just like it's written. Now, there's a reason why I chose to multiply my bottom equation by negative 1. What that's going to give me is positive 4x. Notice I multiplied the negative 1 times the negative 4x. Then I multiply the negative 1 times the negative 3y, which gives me plus 3y, and times the negative 2. Don't forget, you have to multiply all the terms. Gives me 2. Now look what happens. The reason I did that was so that when I add these equations together, remember, we can add equal things to both sides. Basically, what I'm doing is I'm saying since A equals B, that's the first equation, and C equals D, then since I'm adding equal things, of course, A plus C has to be equal to B plus D. I'm just adding equal things to both sides. They just don't look the same. That's the philosophy or the thinking behind it. Anyway, negative x plus 4x is 3x. Negative 3y plus 3y is 0. And 13 and 2 gives you 15. I'm dividing by 3 on both sides, and I get x equals 5. Now, I'm not quite done yet. I can substitute that 5 into the first equation, into the second equation. I could even substitute it into this equation. I recommend that you put it into one of the originals. So I'm just going to put it in the very first equation. So I have negative. Notice that that negative goes outside the parentheses. Minus 3y is equal to 13. I'm going to add 5 to both sides. I'll just write it for you. I know I'm probably going into too much detail, but I'll go a little faster after this. 3y is equal to 18, and divide by negative 3 on both sides, and we get y equals negative 6. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, man, I am done. I am not going to bother doing that check. It doesn't take long, so please do the check. It is negative 4. Notice I used the top equation to find my y. So I'm going to use the second equation, which is 5 for x minus 3 times negative 6 for y. And it's supposed to be equal to negative 2. I'm using this bottom equation down here. And this is negative 20 plus 18. Sorry, I had to go over here. Equals negative 2. This is right here. And that's true. So my equation is, and my solution is correct. Your solution has to be true for both equations. So I'm just going to go through the steps at this point. I'm going to use substitution, and I'm going to go a little faster. 2x, I'm going to substitute the 3. I get minus 18 equals negative 16. I add 18 to both sides, and I get 2x equals 2, and x is 1. And I already know what the y is. It's 3, isn't it? So I'm going to go just a little faster. Now this time I need to maybe change the signs of my first equation and add them. So I'm going to go ahead and change the signs and add. That's going to make that a positive x, a negative 3y, and a positive 5. There, got rid of that negative. So now I've got 2y is equal to negative 8. And y is negative 4. Now I still need to substitute my y and find my x. So I get negative x plus 5 times y, which is negative 4, equals negative 13. Adding 20, notice this is negative 20. I have to add 20 to both sides. I get negative x is equal to 7, so x is negative 7. I get negative 7, careful. I solved for the y first, but remember that we always write them, x and then the y. Negative 4. Now, I did a lot of stuff in my head, and I used the second equation to find my x value. So I'm going to substitute my answer into the top equation. Negative x, a very common error, is to see that negative in front of the x and then forget about the negative 7. It is important that you notice that that is a positive 7. Plus 3 times negative 4 for the y should be equal to negative 5. That is 7 plus negative 12, and it is equal to negative 5, isn't it? So we know it's true. We have our solution. All right, I'm going to go a little faster now. Now in this one, we have a couple of things going on. First of all, the negative 10x and the negative 3x, the only way to make them the same is to think of it like a common denominator. I want one of them to be maybe negative 30 and the other one to be positive 30. And that's a way to get there. The thing is, I have a positive y. And whenever you have a 1 as your coefficient, it makes it really easy, because wouldn't it be nice to have a negative 8y right there? So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to multiply my bottom equation by negative 8. Now, some people would go ahead and multiply and add all at the same time, which is what I would normally do. But I'm going to go ahead and write it out this last time. And then from now on, I'll just go ahead and skip that step and just tell you what I'm doing. The first equation isn't changing. The second equation is negative 24x minus 8y, and that is equal to negative 72. And when we add them together, we get negative 34x is equal to negative 84. It's like I made an error. Oh, positive 24x, oops. Sorry, guys. Got to be a little more careful. That's 14. And I'm going to divide by 14 on both sides. And it sure looks like I'm going to get negative 6, isn't it? So my x is negative 6. And I could substitute that into my bottom equation, which gives me 18 plus y equals 9. And then y is going to be negative 9. And what I want to do is substitute those into my top equation. And I'm going to go fairly quickly. Negative 6 times negative 10 is 60. And negative 9 times 8 is negative 72. And when we add those, we really do get negative 12. So there it is. These take so long. That's why I want to move right along. Now I'm going to multiply my bottom equation by 5, and I'm going to add them together. Can everybody do that? You get 20y. And I'm multiplying the bottom equation by 5. So that's going to give me negative 80, and negative 20 is negative 100. And y is equal to negative 5. I know I went really fast. There it is. Now to get my x, I need to substitute it into the second one, which is x minus 10 equals negative 16. I'm going to go ahead and write it for you. And then I'm just going to add 10 to both sides and get x equals negative 6. So there's my solution, negative 5, negative 6. Hopefully I'm not going too fast. The first equation, I'm going to go ahead and substitute my negative 5 for x. That gives me positive 25 plus negative 60 is not equal to negative 20. So I made a dumb error somewhere. Where would my error be? I wrote it backwards, didn't I? Remember I told you a lot of times we're going to write the x and y backwards, and it's an easy mistake to make. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to back this up, and I'm going to write it the right way. This x comes first and the y comes second. Wouldn't that have been sad to get it wrong, even though you were doing all the work correctly? So let's put it the right way this time. And I have a negative 6 for x and a negative 5 for y. Now let's put it into our top equation. Negative 5 times negative 6 is 30. Oops. 30. And negative 5 times 10 is negative 50. And that, when we add those together, we get negative 20, which does work with our top equation. Everybody clear why you want to do the check? That's why you check it, okay? Because it's easy to make a dumb error like that where you put them backwards or something. I'm going to do substitution. I'm going to go very quickly this time. I have 5x minus 6 is equal to negative x plus 6. I'm going to do two things at once. I'm going to add x to both sides, and I'm going to add 6 to both sides, and then I'm going to divide by 6, and I'm done. Now I'm going to substitute the 2 in, and I get y equal to 4. I use the top equation in my head, and I'm going to put the answers into the second equation in my head, and they work. Just make sure that you get them in order. 2, 4. I know I went really fast, but I did explain what I was doing, so hopefully it's okay. All right, guys. This one I'm just going to add them up, and I get 4x equals 4, which means that x is 1. And that means that my y is going to be, looks like, no, I'm going to put it in. I think I'll put it in my top equation. So I get 6 minus y equals 3. Really easy to make an error there. I'm actually going to solve this in my head. I don't usually do that, but in this case, instead of subtracting 6 and dividing by negative 1, I just simply filled in the blank. I usually don't like doing that, but in this case, I'm kind of in a hurry. So negative 1 plus 3, negative 1 gives, for the second equation, if I put in x equals 1, I get negative 2 plus 3, which is 1, so it works. I have 1, 3. Come on. 3. There we go. All right, let's get another one going here. All right, I'm going to multiply my top equation. I could either multiply by 2 or 3. Either one will work. So you try one of those two. Hang on just a minute. I am going to. Okay, guys, I hope you tried one or the other. I think I'm going to multiply the top equation by 3. That's going to give me negative 6x plus 3y equals 30. And I'm going to add that to my second equation, 4x minus 3y equals negative 18. And I'm going to get negative 2x is equal to 12. It looks like, and x is negative 6. Sorry, that 6 looks kind of funky there. Let me see if I can fix it. I don't know. Geez, it just keeps getting worse. There we go. Nice bold negative 6. I probably am right. Now I'm going to substitute my negative 6 into either equation. Doesn't really matter. And I get 12 plus y equals 10. Hopefully you notice why I chose the top equation. And y is equal to 2. Negative 2, excuse me. So negative 2. And now I'm going to substitute both of those solutions, the x and the y, into the bottom equation. So negative 6 times 4 is negative 24. Negative 2 times negative 3 is positive 6. And when we add those, we actually do get negative 18. So it is correct. All right, we're getting there. Oh yeah, it's coming. A couple of choices. I could multiply the top by -10, or I could multiply the top by -4. I'm thinking -4 is going to be so much easier. So I'm going to multiply my top equation by -4 and add them together. I'm going to go ahead and add them, multiply and add at the same time. I hope this is clear enough. So that's going to give me -6x. And the y's are going to cancel, and I'm going to get -12. So x is equal to 2. If you need to see it, go ahead and distribute it, the -4, to all the terms and add them together. You'll see that it works. And I'm going to substitute my 2 into the top equation. That gives me -2 plus y is equal to 4. And y is equal to 6. I just added 2 to both sides. So I get 2, 6. Now, the question is, am I right? Well, let's, helps if I actually put it in the right place. There we go, 2, 6. Now let's see. I'm going to put both of those solutions into my bottom equation, which gives me -20. I put the 2 right there, didn't I? And I put the 6 right there, plus 24. Is that 4? Oh, yeah. There we go. Okay. Now in this one, we could multiply the top by -2. That would work. We could also, I'd say that's probably the easier way, but I don't know. I like multiplying the bottom by 5. Take a look and see why I like that. Hopefully you can see why I chose to do the 5 instead of multiplying the top by a -2. That is going to give me the -10y, and those y's are going to cancel out. My 10x and my x gives me 11x, and my 40 and my 15 gives me 55. So x is equal to 5. Hopefully you can see where I got that. If x is 5, I can solve it by putting it in the top. So 5, oh God, there it is, 5 plus 10y is equal to 15, which means that y is equal to 1. I did both steps. I subtracted 5 and divided by 10. Hopefully that's clear. And I get 5, 1, 5, 1. Now, come on, go over there. There we go. Now I'm going to put the 5, 1 into the bottom equation, which gives me 10 minus 2 equals 8, which is true. I know I'm kind of doing the minimalistic here, but hopefully it's clear. And you could fill in all the spots if you wanted to. Now I'm going to multiply the top by -2. Hopefully you can see why I chose that. And I'm going to go ahead and multiply it and add it all. You know what? I'm going to go ahead and write it. There's a reason. 8x plus 8y is equal to 8, isn't it? I multiply by -2. And I get -7x minus 8y equals -16. And you get x equals -8. Pretty easy. Now I need to substitute my -8 in. I'm going to put it in that top equation before I multiplied it. And I get positive 32 minus 4y equals -4. I add the -32 to both sides. And I get y equals 9. So let's put it in. -8 and 9, positive 9. Now I should check my answer. -7 times my -8, notice I'm just substituting, is 56. And 9 times 8 is -72. And when you add those together, you really do get -16. So it is true. All right, guys, I'm trying to keep it under 30 minutes. I know it's hard to do. I'm going to multiply the top by 2. The reason I chose that is because it's going to give me that -6y and get rid of everything. I'm going to end up with 8x is equal to 36 and 12 makes 48, and x is equal to 6. And then I'm going to substitute the 6 into the top equation, which gives me -6 minus 3y equals 18. I'm going to add the 6. 10y is equal to -8, isn't it? So I get 6 and -8. I know I went really fast. Hopefully it isn't too fast. I doubt many people are along with me at this point. Minus 48 is actually equal to 12. So I checked my answer too. So I'm skipping a lot of steps. Hopefully it's all clear. And if you have any trouble, just expand it out and you'll be able to do it, I promise. Let's see here. In this one, I could multiply the top by 2, couldn't I? And I think you're going to find that that's going to work out really nice. I'm going to get 8y. And the -28 plus the 12 gives me -16. And then I'm going to get y equals -2. And I still need to substitute it into the second equation or the bottom one. It doesn't matter. I'm going to put it in the top equation. -4 equals -14. I just put this -2 right there, just in case you're wondering what I did. That's going to add 4, and then I'm going to get x equals 10. I did 2 steps in one. So I get 10 -2, and I substitute those into my second equation. I have 20 plus -8, and that is 12, isn't it? In this one, I'm going to multiply the top equation by -2. And I'll go ahead and write it all out. That's going to be 6x minus 10y equals -38. Oh, I don't need a line. Sorry. My bottom equation is -9x plus 10y is equal to 17. I chose that so that my y's would cancel. I get -3x. I'm adding these. This is going to be -21, isn't it? And x is equal to 7, maybe. Let's take a look. We got a 7 for x. I'm going to substitute the 7 into the top. That's -21 plus 5y equals 19. I'm going to add 21, and I'm going to get 5y equals 40. I'm going to divide by 5, and I'm going to get y equals 8. And then I'm going to substitute both of those numbers into the bottom equation. -63. I'm just putting the 7 right there. I'm putting the 8 right there. Plus 80 is 17, isn't it? Okay, guys. Got a couple more. This one, I'm going to multiply the top equation by 5. So that's going to be 40x. I multiplied it by 5 and added. Okay, so I add the 30x plus the 10x gives me 40x. The -10y plus the 10y gives me 0. And remember, I'm multiplying the top by 5. So 60 minus 20 is 40. So x equals 1. And I'm going to substitute the 1 in, and I'm going to get 6. 6. I'm doing the top equation. 6 plus 2y. I wanted to skip steps again. I'm going to skip 2 steps. I'm going to subtract 6 and divide by 2. I'm going to get y equals 3. So 1, 3 seems to be my solution. 1, 3. And 10 minus 30 is -20. Easy cheesy. And one last one. Hopefully you guys can get it too. I'll work it out a little bit slower because this one requires that you multiply both equations by something. Now there's 2 ways to go. Actually, there's 4. There's 4 methods and they all work. Okay, I'll show you all 4 of them. Multiply the top equation by 5 and we get 10x plus 30y equals 50. Multiply the bottom equation by -2, and you get -10x plus 10y is equal to -10. And we could solve that. Now I could have instead multiplied the top by a -5 and the bottom by a +2, which would have just changed all my signs. Negative, 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 positive, negative, positive. And I still get the same answer. Negative 40y equals negative 40, and the y is still equal to 1. If you noticed, if you solved the first ones that I found, you would have found positive 40y equals positive 40. So y was equal to 1. Now, my other option was to multiply the top by negative 5 and multiply the bottom, by positive 5 and the bottom by 6. So multiplying, let me write that down just so you can see it. I said I would, so I'll do it. Multiply the top by 5 and the bottom by 6. And look what happens. Here you get a 30y, and here you get a negative 30y. And switching the signs would do the same thing, except that you would have a negative on top and a 30 on the bottom. All right, so y is 1, and 2x plus 6 is equal to 10. I just put the y equal 1 in the top equation, right there. That's 1. And then I get 2x equals 4, so x is equal to 2. 2, 1, it looks like that's my last one. Man, they gave me an easy one on my final. Let's substitute it into the bottom equation. 10 minus 5 is 5, isn't it? And we're all done. I hope you will try and get yours. Go all the way to mastery, and I'll see you back again. Bye.